Know this. Introducing the original Blood Clot podcast, not players. Soothing semantic. Special dedication. All the way from New York. Boom. Yeah, man. SWOT semantic. Yeah, me know. Boom. Soothing semantic. Yeah, me know. Big ups to the man now. Soothing semantic.
It is time, ladies and gentlemen. Have you been looking for luxury watches for quite some time, or have contemplated doing so, but you don't really know who you can trust and where the best prices are? Look no further. Time for Luxury has got your back. Make sure to check out the site. Some of the watches they sell include Patek Philippe, Rolex, AP, Cartier, Hublot, Richard Mille, and many others as well. Make sure to check them out. You will be very, very glad you did.
On another episode of Soothing Semantics, I'm your host, Rafi Pinsky. Make sure to subscribe, like, share, follow both of us on social media, leave your comments. And here we are. Today we have Sarah Desamours on the podcast. She's French-Canadian, and she has a lot to share with us today. She is a luxury realtor. Has met with some very interesting people here in Miami. So welcome, Sarah. Thank you for coming.
Thank you for the introduction, the French introduction.
Bit of course.
Oh my God. And I wanted to add that I'm Haitian too.
I should have mentioned that. Okay.
Really? Okay, cool. Yeah, Haitian. I'm French-Canadian Haitian. You don't find a lot of people like that in Miami.
Well, I mean, the Haitian kind of goes with the French.
They do, but the French Canadian, like you'll have Haitian people here, but not the Haitians from Canada, which are totally different.
Yes, and the only thing I wish you did was bring a hat for me, but it is what it is. I don't have a mustache either. I mean, I don't have a nice like.
If you have a pen, I can draw one for you.
but we have the one, so that's good. So tell us a little bit about growing up in Canada and what brought you to Miami and all that
Very
good stuff.
funny. Well, I grew up in Montreal, Canada, born and raised in Montreal, and been there my whole life. Did a regular life, but I went to school, got good grades, went to college. Initially, I wanted to be an attorney, and changed my mind last minute after being accepted to law school and everything, right? I freaked out, and I'm like, I don't want to be an attorney. I want to be a business person.
I feel like no one starts out in real estate. Most people don't start out doing real estate.
Yeah.
They just end up realizing that that's a better option.
For real estate,
Yeah.
I want to be an attorney. Like initially, I'm like, I'm going to be a lawyer. Like, I'm going to make my parents happy. I don't know. I feel like Israeli people, you guys are very similar, and for like any type of immigrant, your parents, they want you to be a doctor, they want you to be a lawyer, they want you to be an engineer or whatnot, and I wanted that too for them, because they worked really hard. My dad came from nothing, and he did really well, but really literally came from nothing, and I wanted to make them happy. And I realized I didn't want to be an attorney. I realized that I've always been an entrepreneur. And
That was not French enough.
how do I say it in English? Entrepreneur.
An entrepreneur. It is a French word.
Entrepreneur.
Entrepreneur.
Entrepreneur. I knew I wanted it, but I didn't know how, right? So, I was the one in high school. I don't know how old you are. I'm probably older than you, but I would go to the U.S., right? I would go to America on vacation, and I would come back with all the new songs, and I would do CDs, and I would make people buy them.
You made people buy them.
CDs, but
I remember when CDs were like the biggest thing.
They were.
It's crazy to think that CDs are completely out of the picture.
and they were like a big deal. I would go back and I'd be like, hey, I came back from Miami, and I have like all the new like Ja Rule and all the new like American music, and I'm gonna make those, and I charge people $20 for each CD.
Wow.
And people would buy them. Like I always hustled, you know what I mean?
Yeah, me
I
too.
always had a thing where even when I was a kid, like 8, 9 years old, and I wanted to go to the theme park, my parents would pay for me to go to the theme park, but I'm like, I want to eat good food when I'm there, and I would do like garage sales.
It took me a second. I literally thought you were saying team park, and then I realized
park.
theme. Okay.
Theme park.
Okay.
My bad. Okay.
Yeah.
But you're gonna get used to the accent.
I know. I'm
At
trying.
one point.
We're working on it.
But anyways, I wanted to go there and just eat whatever I wanted instead of bringing a lunch, and I would do like mini garage sales. I would quick, whatever, toys,
That
whatever.
reminds me, I did a garage sale once to
Yeah?
get rid of all my shit, and I
Oh, we can curse.
But
Oh my God, I love that.
oh, you can curse as much as you want.
Fuck yeah.
Everybody gets so excited when I say that. Everyone gets so excited when I say that. You have to be yourself. You have to be yourself, especially on the
I probably would have cursed anyway, but
Okay, no, you're free. Go ahead. Go ahead. No, it's not going to be bleeped out.
Anyways, I've always been a hustler. I just didn't know how I would use it in my life. I just knew I didn't want to be an attorney working 80 hours a week for other people.
So you started doing all these little sales when you were younger. I actually was doing that too. I was selling.
Really?
I sold drinks like Gatorade and things like that. I would just buy it and upsell them in school. I did the garage sale. I was selling headphones for a little bit.
No way.
Yeah, made a decent amount of
Headphones?
money. I went to the
What?
store. I went to this grocery store.
Yeah.
It's called ShopRite in New York.
Okay. I know ShopRite.
Yeah.
Like Rite, you guys have Rite Aid too?
Right.
Yeah.
You guys have the Rite Aid also?
Yeah, Rite Aid.
So I went to the store. I bought like $6 headphones. I sold them for $25. And a bunch of people bought. A bunch of guys in school bought them.
Mm-hmm.
One guy asked me, he's like, "How much are you buying them for?" I said, "Dude, I'm not telling you that. That's the whole point of this." So he ended up going to ShopRite and he saw them and he said, "Oh, okay." I said, "Bro, this is what business is. Business is business, bro. Like, what do you want me to tell you?"
Business.
Yeah, no, it's not like it's illegal. It's what you do. You mark a product up. That's how you sell something. What do you want me to tell you?
Wait, see, these people are like, "Aren't you paying like $1 for them?" I'm like, "Mind your business." Like, I'm like, "Do you have the songs from Miami?" I don't think you do. I have them on my Napster.
Napster.
Remember LimeWire
shit.
and Kazaa back in the day?
LimeWire. Did you have LimeWire for
I
downloading
had
music?
LimeWire. I had Kazaa. I had everything.
I remember LimeWire. Yeah, that was funny.
Okay, you're around my age. How old are you?
I'm 28.
Oh my
Almost.
God,
I'm 28
okay,
this
you're
month.
like much younger.
A little bit younger.
No, you're like much younger.
So you're 29.
No.
Moving on. So we're doing all of this illegal sales. Okay.
They're not illegal. They weren't illegal. Illegal.
I'm very sarcastic. So you switched. Okay. So you started doing. You not started, but you're doing all these different sales. You realized you were an entrepreneur. You felt you had that. What brought you to real estate? What made you decide not to do law?
I mean, I didn't go into real estate immediately when I didn't go to law school, right?
Mm-hmm.
What I did, even in high school, I've always worked since I was 15,
Mm-hmm.
right? I worked at KFC, I worked at the market, I worked at the pharmacy. I always had like a job, always part-time, even if I didn't have to. And if my dad's listening to this, like he's finding out now that I worked when I didn't have to work. I just liked having my own money. And then when I was 16, I got a job in retail, which I held on for a while, for like 3-4 years. I worked in the men's department,
Mm-hmm.
and I did really, really well there. And I realized, okay, I'm a pretty good salesperson. I don't know what I'm going to do with it. In Canada, compared to America, they're not really big on entrepreneurship like here. They're more. It's not.
Isn't it more of a socialist government in a sense?
It is.
So it doesn't allow for that.
It's not that it doesn't allow for that. It's that people don't feel the need to do it because the government gives you so much money. I mean, you can have a job. If you have children, especially, you get a lot of money. You get money from the federal government. You get.
What's a
money
lot
from
of
the
money? How
state.
much do they give you?
I mean, if
In
you have one
equivalence
kid, if you have one kid, you can get up to $2,000 a month.
American equivalent of dollars.
Yeah.
Really?
Yeah.
All right.
A
moving
month.
to Canada. Okay, moving to Canada.
Yeah, but then people don't work as hard.
But
right?
exactly. So that's the problem with socialism. First of all, $2,000 is $2,000. It's not. It's just not enough.
Yeah,
not
but
enough
if you
money.
look yearly, you have $24,000. The cost of living isn't that
The
much.
reality is, and this goes into entrepreneurship in general, most people want to have more money. They're just either not sure how to start, and if they do start, they don't believe in themselves enough to go through the pain and the agony of failing and fucking up and not knowing when they're gonna have their big moment. Because at the end of the day, if you handed anybody $1 million, they take it.
True.
So they all want
True.
the end result, but they're not necessarily willing to go through the.
At the end of the day, people love handouts. Most people love handouts,
Right.
and people are looking for handouts. Why do you think
They're doing
a
that
lot
here.
of people What?
They're doing that now here
They
with
are,
this
and
discovery.
I'm against that, and which is we can talk about that later. But
Yeah.
I don't believe in handouts. I don't even believe in people giving you anything. I understand that you'll get favors once in a while, but I don't think people should depend on that. But if you look at Canada, if it's already part of the culture, you're not going to find people hustling as hard as in America,
Absolutely.
right? And for me, when you're living there and when this has been your life, your whole life, you're in it and you don't even realize it, right? So for me, I'm like, wow, I'm doing really well in sales, right? Like I was working at a shop called Le Chateau, which for years I worked there and I did really well. But I never thought, oh, I'm going to go into sales, right? I've always loved real estate. Always, always loved real estate to the point that my mom told me that when I was a kid, you know how they have different channels, and one of the channels, and that's like in the 80s or like early 90s, right? So guess my age. I would watch, I would sit
22.
What?
22. You're good 22.
I'm 22? Okay, good. I would sit in front of the TV as a kid and watch the channel because back then they would put all the listings on the channel. And my mom told me I would sit there and watch it all day.
It was so much harder back then.
Yeah.
People, like, it's crazy how realtors are complaining now with all the tech we have. Unbelievable. You think 10 years ago they had a dialer?
They didn't know that. Back then you had to literally go in the newspaper to look at listings or sit in front of that channel all day until you would find one that you liked. And you would have to like hurry up and write down the phone number and your address, right?
How much more efficient we have it as agents, and we're still sitting there. Well, personally, I mean, but you have so many agents that are bitching about the difficulty of it. And yeah, I'm not going to say things.
Difficult at all.
It's crazy. Yeah.
But anyways, I always knew I wanted to go into it, but I didn't really know how. And the thing with me, I'm a very creative person as well.
Mm-hmm.
I went into marketing in college, in university, right? So I always went to school, had a job. And my job always had sales aspects in it. Whether I worked as a teller at the bank, and I started working at the bank right after retail.
Mm-hmm.
And at the bank, even when you're a teller, you have to tell people, hey, you know, you're pre-approved for a credit card. Would you like to apply for it? Or, hey, I see here you're pre-approved for a line of credit. Would you like to talk to a representative about it?
Mm-hmm.
I always had an aspect of it, and I always did very, very well without even trying hard, right? I just feel like you have it or you don't.
Yeah, that's a whole nother.
True.
You know?
You can work on it sure, but when you have it naturally, you have it naturally, right?
I definitely think I had to work on it from when I was younger. I was definitely very social even as a kid.
Yeah.
But when I was not nearly as much as I am now.
Okay.
Which is interesting.
But you can work on it. You can work on anything in life.
You can work on it, but there's some people that have it naturally.
But look, I had it naturally. I just didn't know what to do with it.
Mm-hmm.
Do you see what I mean? Like I knew that I was good, but I never thought. Again, coming from Canada, where people don't talk about money. That's very European. You don't talk about money. You don't talk about how much you make. You don't talk about how much you can make. You don't talk about your financial goals. It's more closed-minded when it comes to that, right? And long story short, I went to work in mortgages, right? I worked at the bank, and there was an opening. No, I worked at the bank. There was an opening for, because I worked on the phones at one point. Again, all during college. Yeah, aka university for you guys. You guys call it college, we call it university.
You know what it is for us? I'll explain how it works.
Mm-hmm.
College is generally when you refer to college, it's a local
community.
Meaning it's smaller. There aren't necessarily frats. If there are frats, they're kind of like.
I didn't even know what a frat was. That's such an.
You don't have frats in Canada?
No. Maybe there was one, maybe like in Toronto.
I wasn't a part of one. I went to a local college
my God.
near my house.
I remember looking at frat people doing a dance and I thought it was a cult. I'm like,
it is a cult.
I'm like, where am I? I need to leave immediately.
It totally is a cult.
Like they're going to try to no. I'm like, I gotta go.
It totally is. It's a crazy party, wild nut,
It was, to me, it was really weird.
I mean, frats are probably frats and sororities are probably incredibly fun. But for me, I just wanted to finish school and get out of it. I just wanted to finish. So I went to a local school. I didn't have all these parties. Of course, I went to college parties.
Good for you.
Yeah, no, I went to parties, but I was much more focused on just getting the degree. I did not like college. It wasn't for me. I liked the social aspect of it. Mm-hmm. I liked socializing with people. There were some classes I enjoyed, but overall, I wanted to get the fucking degree, finish, move on. I went to school for free, which is nice.
Good for you.
Financial aid.
Congrats.
So that was good. No college debt, which is fantastic.
That's one thing. Like I have my daughter, And if you ask her where she's going to college, she'll like tell you like a robot like Canada. Like she doesn't even know why she's saying it because my thing is I'm like, because she's dual citizen, and I'm like, I don't want her to be in debt for $200,000.
Let's get into that.
Yeah.
And I'm sure you'll agree with me. And it's changing. It's very, very, very much changing. College, unless you're going into something, and this is people have heard this a million times, but it doesn't register in people's heads. Unless you are going to college for something that you need to have a degree
like
for,
a doctor,
then don't bother. If you have no idea what you want to do, then I understand if you go to college. But if you're going to college and you're getting a liberal arts degree
or like political
science, just drop out and go do something else. You're wasting your time. You're going into debt for nothing. And people don't want to accept this. And parents, old school parents, are like, you need a degree. No, you don't. People want to see experience. That's the truth.
I 100% agree. And I look back at my college education, and I think the two biggest things that I got in it was, for me, English is my second language, and I went to an English university. It really helped me with my writing, essays and things like that. It helped me with that, and it helped me with the networking. I met people that became my clients, 10 years later, right?
Oh, that's awesome.
But except for that, I learned everything working.
Absolutely.
Working.
That's how it is for most people.
Again, working since I was 15. I didn't wait till I was 20-something. No. I worked while I was in high school. And I tell that to people. Like, I just did a podcast like a mini interview with, like, teenagers. And I told them, look, the biggest advice I can give you, work. I don't care what you're doing. I don't care if you're doing it for a month. I don't care if you're doing it, like, once a week. Work. Work for someone. Learn to work. You need to learn to do it. Because if you don't do it, you're going to become entitled. Or when you're going to have a job, you're going to have all these demands, and you're not going to know how to do shit. And you're going to be like, oh, these people are mean. Or no, get to work when you're young. That way you're not going to have to see a therapist because of a new job when you're in your 20s.
I was a waiter for 8 years.
Oh my God, that's the best. That's one of the best jobs.
Started working at 15 also. I was making pretty decent money. It was cash. It was off the books. IRS. I don't care. It was off the books. And it was great money. I mean, it was great cash. I was doing it for, like I said, 8 years. I was doing it throughout high school. I did it.
It's great. And you learn people skills.
Yes. Yeah. You deal with difficult people. I was carrying. I wasn't working in a restaurant, or I didn't do weddings, so the jobs mostly were relatively easier to me, anyhow.
Did you work for catering? Or?
Yes. So I worked for a waitering agency, but it wasn't some legitimate. It wasn't illegitimate, but it was like a guy. It was a guy who owned a company.
Paid cash.
Right, he paid me cash. He had a bunch of waiters, and the catering company hired us. We wore black on black, like black shirt, whatever. Yeah. And a lot of them were plastic and paper job, like the silver, plasticware. 5-hour gigs, $100, $120. I was 16, 17, 15, 16. When I was a little younger, he paid me less because I was a newbie. Once I got a little older, he was paying me $20, $25 an hour with tips. I would do 3 jobs back to back. I woke up at 5, sometimes 5 a.m., 4:30, did a job at 6 a.m., finished at like 11, made $120. Then I had another job at 12.
That's great.
12 to like...
And when you're like 15 and you have that's a lot of money.
I was doing 3 jobs in one day. I made like $400 cash.
That's amazing. And another thing, I told you I worked at 15, but my parents had a restaurant when I was younger, and I was 11 years old helping out. I didn't get paid for it, but then people would find me cute and they would tip me once in a while, right? Okay. But I didn't get paid for it.
Somebody just gave you a tip because they thought you were cute?
No, but people would tip me because my mom would be like, hey, can you just go get their order or whatever? And I would go.
That's sweet.
I would go and I would just try to be cute and be like, okay, like, let me get their order. But people would really like me, and they would be like, oh my God, she's in it. People would give me like $10, $20 just to like encourage me because I was helping my parents, right? And for me, watching my parents work always taught me hard work. I didn't get, that's another difference between the kids now. I mean, when I was working when I was 15, my other friends were working too. It's not like I'm the only one that was. All my friends had like a little job.
You know what I think it is though, Sarah? I think because you have immigrant parents.
True.
They instilled that in you, but you have a lot of parents that are second, third generation. They don't make their kids do anything. Their kids don't do anything.
My daughter has no idea what's coming for her.
You might, and I respect you for that, but there are a lot of parents who
I know.
don't make it, especially their daughters. They don't make them do anything.
No, but you have to
They
because
come into
I don't
the
want
world-
her to become an asshole.
Right.
You know, like
I love that you're saying that, but there's a lot of people who don't think that way. Fuck that. If my kid thinks he's gonna be, he or she.
But
thinks,
my daughter, I give her as much as I can, right? I work really hard. She's living a good life, but guess what? She makes her bed in the morning. She has to make her own breakfast. She knows how to use a dishwasher. She knows how to put the stuff in the dishwasher. She's
Awesome.
7 years old,
That's fantastic.
right? And
Mhm.
her other, like, I'm not going to compare her to other people, but there's other kids that don't even know how to make their bed. They don't even know how to shower by themselves without the mom telling them how to shower or how to wash their ass. Like, there's no way on earth that I'm gonna raise an asshole.
But French people are very spoiled. They have
No, they're
something
not.
No, but they have the bidet that does it for them.
Oh my god, that's what you're talking. By the way, the bidet. That's anyways. Let me not even go there because in Canada we don't use bidet. Like we're French, but not like that. You know what
Really?
I mean?
I thought that it literally
bidet?
comes from France.
It does, but you know, Quebec.
You saying French people?
French.
I love how we're getting into this conversation.
Yeah, I don't usually know. Like I know how to use it, but we're not like, you can use
I've
my
never had
bidet.
one in my life.
Oh my god, the bidet.
It's funny.
What a
I'll
waste
tell
of
you though.
time.
The French people that I've met, not all of them, and I got along with them very well, but they were very, very spoiled. Like it's just their mentality.
You find? I just find that French people and even Quebecois people were just a little bit more refined when it comes to certain things, and people might think, "Oh, you're snobby." They're snobby, but it's not that. It's literally part of the lifestyle. It's part of your lifestyle to know good wines. It's part of your lifestyle to eat really, really good food. But then when you come to the US and you're like, oh, I'm gonna make duck, people are like, ooh la la, look at the French girl making duck. But duck is like $9.99 in Canada. It's $9.99.
Oh, it's cheap. Okay.
No, but what I'm saying, it's part of the lifestyle. Like we'll eat tartare. Like people think it's fancy.
Is it
but,
du nez tartare?
oh, it's just tartare.
Is it
We have
tartare?
people hear people tartare. The hell is tartare? They have no idea, but like it's part of the lifestyle. But then when you go to, and I wouldn't say another country, I would say America. You come to America, people are like, ooh, look at these French people with their fancy
It's a
taste,
stereotype. You guys have that stereotype. Italians also have that stereotype. It's the
which way?
fashion.
Because you're Italian
food,
too,
right? But I didn't grow up Italian. I just happened to be Italian from my father's side, but I grew up Jewish completely.
So I like to cook, and my Italian food is my favorite food to
Love
cook.
Italian food. Love.
That's what I have
When I was in
always.
high school, my buddies, whoever's listening to this, my buddies made fun of me because for lunch every fucking day I had pasta.
Oh my
Every day.
God, I would want to be your friend. Just like, give me like a little bit.
I don't know how I didn't get sick of it. I ate it every single day, over and over. No,
I could eat.
I would
pasta
eat
every
different
day.
things.
I'd be
Yeah.
fat though, but.
So I was young, so
Were
I
you chubby?
never. I used to be very skinny actually.
Okay.
Never fat. No.
I love, so my first international trip that wasn't Haiti was when I was 15 and I went to Italy for almost a month. And
Which
that
is
changed my
for
life.
a month.
For a month,
Wow.
yeah. And it changed my life because, and that's another thing, like, I feel like I started working actually for that trip for when I was 15 because I knew I was going to go on that trip
Mhm.
and I knew it was going to be for a month and I knew that I would have an allowance, but at the time, you know, you're a teenager, I had all these magazines and all these brands and all that. I'm like, hey, if I'm gonna go to Italy, like I want to have cash. You know what I mean? Like,
Yeah.
it's the fashion place. You know, we
Mhm.
were gonna go to Milan and everything, and I said, okay, I want to buy things that I want when
Mhm.
I'm there and not have to ask for my parents for extra money. And I know that, you know, we're going there, it's gonna be a nice trip, but I don't want to ask them for like $1,000 or whatever. And then I got a job at KFC.
In Italy?
No, before going from
Oh,
my,
okay.
my trip was in July, and I worked at KFC from April until end of June.
Wow, that's awesome because you didn't grow up in a poor situation. You did say your dad did
I
well.
wasn't poor, but I was very middle class. My dad started really doing really well when I was like 12, 13 because he got a crazy job.
Okay, I'm just listen. Here's the thing, and here's the thing that I'll say. I think a lot of people aren't willing to admit when they grow up in a comfortable household because it kind of takes away from the whole story of rags to riches.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm not shitting on you for that. It's perfectly fine. At the end of the day, you still hustle. So like, I had Margot on. If Margot happens to be listening to this, she brought up the I'm gonna roast her a little, even though I don't even know her that well. But she was like, oh, like sometimes people give me shit for like working for my dad, and people say like, oh, you didn't have to work for anything. the end of the day, everyone's got a different deck of cards.
But there's people that don't take that opportunity.
So there's the thing. She works good, from what I see, definitely with her content. She knows, she's very knowledgeable. I see she knows very much about mortgages. She could have been, it seems like her dad does very well. She could have been a lazy girl who does nothing.
And that's most people, by the way. You know that.
So let me just, I'm giving her a compliment. Margot, you're welcome. So she works very hard. She knows her mortgages. She makes content every day. She's very knowledgeable on content. And I mean, she does very well for herself. So at the end of the day, you can be somebody who grows up in a more comfortable household and decide to just skate by and ask for money and do nothing. So although I didn't grow up with any kind of money, I respect people who did grow up more comfortably and still decided to get their own, to get their own bag, as they say, because hard work is hard work. So
and the way I look at it too, there's different types of comfortable, right? There's comfortable where you're like, you can get anything you want at any moment, right? Mm-hmm. Or there's comfortable where, you live in a cute house, things are good, but I didn't have any luxuries. Like, you know what I mean? Like, I didn't, like, if I wanted, like a new Nintendo, I couldn't really get it, right? Like, but it's only when I was later on, like when I was 12 and later on, and again, my parents, well, I didn't say it before, my parents got divorced. Mm. But then my dad got a crazy job that was international, and I was living with my mom. Mm. So basically, when I would go see my dad, it would be one lifestyle. And then when I would be with my mom, it would be like...
How is it different? How are the lifestyles different?
My dad was an expatriate, living in different countries every 2 years. So, and I'm saying it, and I really respect it, because he really came from nothing. And he worked in a restaurant, I think. He used to be like a busboy, like at an Italian restaurant when he was a kid, when he came to Montreal, and literally worked all of high school, worked all of college. He became an accountant, and then he got a really good job as an expatriate working for an international oil company. Literally came from nothing and then went to do that, And for me, it showed me like the hard work, because my dad, I remember when I was a kid, he was the first one in the office, last one in the office as an accountant. You know what I mean? And I watched all that. Like him, literally, like every single morning, he would get his Eggos, because he had to drive an hour to go to work.
When you said Eggos?
Eggos, like the waffles. He would like get his waffle Eggos and like his coffee in the mug and leave home at like 5-something a.m. because he wanted to be the first one in the office.
He led by example, so he had a huge impact on you.
Huge impact. And even when he worked as the chief financial officer for a huge oil company. He was working in a different country every 2 years. So I'm super grateful. My sister and I, we got to travel all over the world because of that. But we were living full time with my mom, right? So even when he was working, again, first one in the office, last one out of the office, right? Hustler, like working, and always showed me like, whatever you want, you just gotta work your ass off for it. Because it's not like he got privileged. It's not like he got financial aid. He didn't get any of that. He literally had to work and pay for his own shit his whole life. So I watched that. And I watched my parents have a restaurant too. And I watched the ups and downs of a restaurant. And I watched my dad being a full-time accountant and having a restaurant just to try to hustle and do more, right? And, for me, I've always just watched people working. No handouts, and even working for an international company, right? Just still hustling to try to go up and go up and go up in the company. Although I'm not the type that wants to work corporate, but just watching that just showed me, hey, if you want something in life, you just got to work for it, because you can come from nothing and you can be there.
So that's what the whole, I guess, paradox of, well, I don't know if I'd call it a paradox, but you have people who want to work all the time. So for instance, for me, I love accomplishment. So as much as I liked, and I actually saw this guy, his name is Vic Tipness. Okay. He's on social media. He has a large following. He's an entrepreneur. He owns a company called Blackstone. It's like a medical.
I know Blackstone.
Not the real estate Blackstone.
Oh, okay.
So it's a medical like sales company, and he does very, very well. Very successful guy. And he said recently, I just saw a video he posted, and he said, I enjoy downtime every now and then, but I'd much rather accomplish things. I'm much happier when I'm doing and accomplishing. And I resonate with that so much.
Downtime when I schedule my downtime, but I enjoy more working and being productive and accomplishing things than I do just kind of doing nothing. I have no consideration on burnout. It doesn't exist in my life.
Because when you're someone who enjoys accomplishment, because I've had to do that my whole life, it's so much more fulfilling. You have a schedule, you have a routine. You know what you're doing. You have goals. When you're just sitting around, it's. I love enjoying myself on a vacation. I rarely do them because I want to get to a certain place where I feel I've earned it. So it's tough to think about because every second that passes, you don't get. Meaning you don't get again. It's over. Now we're having a conversation. We're losing time out of our lives right now. It's a crazy thing to think about. We're never going to get back again. So do I spend it having a podcast with you? Do I spend it in Venice? Do I spend it working in an office? That's all up to my decision. At the end of the day, what I am afraid of.
It's mental though.
Yeah. So what I'm afraid of is I don't want to be 40 years old and regret my decisions. So for me, because I want to have a family, kids, and I want to give them more than I had, I'd rather sacrifice those vacations and that time on the beach for now, so I can have the ability to have the financial freedom, to have the ability to go to my kid's soccer practice. If I need to pick my kid up at 3 o'clock, I can do it. If I want to take a random vacation on January 3rd to January 26th with my entire family, I can afford it and we can do it and there's no problems.
And you have systems in place so that your business can keep running.
Correct.
That's something I struggle with. We can talk about it later, but you're talking about accomplishments and having your free time. And, when you witness that firsthand, right? Like I witnessed my dad never taking vacations. I witnessed him just hustling. And, as a Black person, not as a white man. And, we can talk about how, we can't, it's not different. It is different.
Talk about all you want. Go ahead.
People look at you different. People look at you in a different way. And my parents, since I was a kid, they told me, listen, if someone in your class if the average is 80% as a Black person, you have to be at 85 for you to be considered at 80, right? For you to go for a job or whatever it is, they're like, you always have to do better to be considered equal, which it's sad to say, and especially back then. I know things are changing now, but it's a reality, right? And for me, I never let that bring me down. I never went to a job interview thinking, I'm Black, they're not going to take me. Or I never said, okay, I want to go after this internship or whatever. Oh, but I'm Black. I was always like, I'm going to fucking kill it. I don't care. I don't care what they say. I don't care if I'm Black. I don't care if I went to a high school where I was one of the only Black people in the entire school. I never gave a shit. Mm-hmm. People were like, how did it feel? I don't think about things like that. I'm like, if you start to think about that you're different, if you start thinking that, my skin color is different, I have a different culture at home, we eat different foods, we speak a different language. If you start letting that get to your head, it's like a limiting belief. And for me, both of my parents actually, they really helped me just say, you know what, just do better, just do really good, so that they can never say shit about you.
By the way, I love this. My feeling is, first off, in the early 1900s, many Jews from Europe immigrated here. Mm-hmm. Many of them weren't accepted to different workplaces. Yeah, they didn't let them work. They said no Jews allowed on the doors. A lot of Jews who kept Shabbat weren't able to work in certain jobs because they were open on Shabbat and they needed their employees to work. Yeah. No, but I'm saying, they said, if you're not going to work Saturdays, we're not going to hire you. Mm-hmm. So aside from the racism of not wanting to hire Jewish people, they didn't want them to work for them because they said, okay, well, why would I hire you if I'm going to hire a Saturday worker? So if you're any group, here's my feeling. If you're Black, and there are Black Jews as well, but
we have actually a religion in my dad's family called Seventh-day Adventist that is very similar to
Seventh-day Adventist, right.
Shabbat and everything.
Right. So I have a buddy of mine, his name David Baez. He's Christian. I think he's Catholic, but he very much honors Shabbat. So we always say Shabbat Shalom to each other.
My grandmother.
Love that too.
Shabbat.
Shout out to you, David, man. You're the man.
Thank you.
Sorry?
What did you say?
I'm giving a shout out to David.
Oh, his name is what, David?
Baez.
Oh my God.
He's Dominican, but he's awesome. He's a killer realtor, awesome guy, beautiful family. So he, we make not the joke about Shabbat, but we have that thing. So ultimately, I'm just trying to backtrack. When you work so hard to the point where you become an asset it doesn't matter, in my opinion, what you are, what color you are, what religion you are. If you become valuable enough where people need you, they'll hire you even if they hate you. So if you're a black Jewish gay attorney, but you're a fucking killer attorney, and some neo-Nazi needs you to get them out of jail, you might not decide to represent them, but they're probably going to call you to represent them because they know that you're the best person
one out there.
Exactly.
But it's a mental thing too, right? Because
to be honest, I don't think I'd be able to represent one. I'd probably, I don't think I know. I would definitely put them. I would do my best to put them in jail. But anyway.
But like, it's a mental thing too, in the sense that in your mind, you cannot let these things limit you. You cannot even think about it. Because if I start thinking that, even entering the luxury market or whatever in real estate, if I start thinking, oh my God, there's no other black people, I don't give a shit. Matter of fact, if there's no black people, great. I'll be the one to
awesome.
To be seen or to be known, like, good, right? And I guess it's the same for Jewish people. You guys have a lot of oppression too. And at the end of the day, you guys, a lot of you guys are killer, amazing things, right? So it doesn't matter what color, what religion you are. If in your mind say, you know what, I'm going to be the greatest and I'm going to work for it and I'm going to do what I have to do to be the best one, then that's it.
This is going to be a reel. I'm going to make this a reel.
Yeah.
I'm going to have a couple of reels, but that's definitely going to be a reel.
Oh, yeah?
Yeah. Because people need to hear this more. People sabotage themselves because they worry too much about color. It's all mental.
All mental. What color, what age? I have this thing where people think I'm younger than you. Great. If you think I'm younger, great. Then you think I'm like 20-something years old, then that means I'm a hustling 20-something years old if I'm doing all that, right? Like, I never let any, maybe it's a personality thing, maybe it's just who I am, but I never let any of these things limit me. And as a matter of fact, when there's anything limiting, it pushes me even more. Like when people doubt me, and I get that all the time, almost every day people doubt me.
Really?
Yeah, all the time. Oh my God, all the time. The Canadian friendly thing. You think I'm too friendly, so I'm not going to negotiate well for them. They think, and
do clients ever say that to your face?
Yeah.
What do they say?
No, they were like, oh, like, you're really friendly. How are you in negotiation? And I see it in their eyes, and I'm like, you know what? And I'm like, you'll see. Or another thing that I do, I
feel like I get the opposite, to be honest with
you. Really? That's what you get from me?
No. I see you as a good negotiator. What I'm saying is I feel like I get the opposite, whereas
you think you're not
people, yeah.
You don't know you're not.
I don't
act
that way. I don't
not
act
at all. Actually, that's why I'm doing this. Like, you're really chill.
No, but I think like when I have clients, because I'm a New Yorker, I'm very direct. So I don't know, but whenever
are so full of shit in Miami. Jesus Christ!
I know.
Thank God.
I agree. Whenever I have a realtor that I'm doing a transaction with, I do my best to work with the realtor. I don't understand why people try to go against the agent.
I have a realtor. I want to say her name because she's a piece of shit. Okay. This realtor.
You don't want to say her name, or you do want to say her name?
I almost want to say her name because the thing is, every time I call her, you talk about how realtors we want to work with each other. Mm-hmm. This girl yells at everyone all the time. Yeah, please. She yells at everyone all the time. So again, because I'm Canadian, she would think that I would be nice and that that I'm never gonna talk back to her. Mm-hmm. Good luck with that. Okay, because I will roast you, I will wash you with soap and water if I have to. I don't care. But then, people are always underestimating me. And the more people underestimate me, the more drive I have. The more I want, the harder I want to work.
It's a very, very healthy entrepreneurial attitude. It's very important for absolutely.
Like, I love when people are like, oh, look at her, like, oh, she's new or she's this. I'm like, oh my God, thank you.
Yes.
Like, now I'm just going to make you shut the fuck up to a point that you're going to want to be my friend or you're going to want to be close to me just to learn from me after talking all that shit about me. So that's how I think. That's how I work.
Competition is key in entrepreneurship, I think. I mean, listen, I'm a young guy. I have a lot to learn. I'm not going to sit here talking like I'm a millionaire because I'm not. But I know I have the right attitude and I just have to keep it. I have to stay consistent and do what I'm doing.
Discipline is the word for 2022.
Absolutely.
Discipline.
Absolutely.
You can do anything you want with discipline.
It's like I said before. It's it's the conversation of, do you want to go through it? Do you want to go through the shitty parts of it? But on the other side, you've been in real estate for 7 years. You're saying it's easy.
In Miami.
Right. So you understand that now where you are, I'm sure you face difficulty and bullshit and difficult clients and difficult
Every
agents.
day.
But there's a rhythmic part of it where you kind of know what you're dealing with. That it's that kind of agent. It's that kind of client.
Yeah, 100%.
Let me pivot and deal with it that way. It's a more introverted client. Okay. It's a more analytical client. It's a driver client. It's this client. It's that client. You've experienced these things enough where you know how to kind of shift and deal, right?
But you're talking about real estate, but don't forget to go back that I've had a bunch of other different jobs where I had to deal with different people. So I can't even only credit that to real estate. I'll credit that to working retail. I'll credit that to KFC was probably one of the best jobs I've ever had, ever.
Did you drive through, or you were like?
No, I was at the cash register, right? And you have to learn to deal with people. You have to be fast. You have secret shoppers that come to evaluate you and your customer service, which is huge in Canada. Canada is either horrible or excellent. There's no middle when they evaluate you at any job. That's why people are like, oh, Canadians are so friendly. No, because our standards are really, really high when it comes to that. And I had to learn how to cook. Like if one of the people in the back wasn't there to make the chicken, I had to learn how to make that. Like I learned so much even working in retail, working on the phones, working as a teller. Every little job that I had brought me to being good in real estate. So I worked at the bank after college, and I worked in mortgages, and I wanted to be a realtor, and I took the exam and I failed it. And then I took it again, and then I was afraid to be a full-time realtor in Canada. I never did it. Because working in mortgages in Canada, you have your base salary and you have bonuses, right? I was comfortable.
You don't do commissions on mortgages then?
You do, but you have a base salary, you have insurance in here, like you have to comfortable.
So you like the security.
I never thought of that. But then I always had a feeling like I wanted to be a realtor. Like I knew it. I would watch the shows. I would look at other realtors and I'm like, damn, like these people are doing good. But I'm like, I can't do that. I was scared. I was afraid. And, I feel like a lot of people who are afraid feel bad for being afraid. It's normal to be afraid. If you have a comfortable job, change is scary.
Oh, it's so hard, yeah. Absolutely.
It's hard. I was afraid. I'm like, look, I have a really good job. I'm really good at what I do in mortgages and even at the bank, helping people. I'm good in sales. I mean, my bills are paid. I have savings. Like, I'm good. I'm like, why would I, do something different, right? But then something happened where I met a guy that was in Miami, and then I had a baby, and I had her in Canada, and the whole plan was for me to move to Miami, which I did. And then the moment that I moved to Miami, our relationship didn't work out. So imagine, I left my job, I left my friends, I left everything that I had. My dad had a house in Miami, but he was working in Africa at the time. So I had nobody. I only had this guy that I was dating. I had one friend, Paola, if she's watching, shout out to Paola, who lived in fucking Coral Springs, which is basically another state.
Yeah, it's all right.
Right? I had one friend here who lived in Coral Springs. I had no friends. I only had this guy, and I had a newborn baby, and the relationship didn't work out. So I thought my life was over. I'm like, my life is fucking over. I'm engaged. I just called off a wedding. Like, it's the most embarrassing time of my life. I have a newborn who's looking at me, who wants my tit every second, right, to take her milk. And I don't know anyone. I left all my friends. I left my comfort. I left everything I had in Canada. And I'm like, what the fuck am I going to do? I'm like, what the fuck am I going to do? So initially, I'm like, oh my God. I remember my mom telling me something, and I'll always remember that. She told me, Sarah, you've been comfortable your whole life. You've always known everyone. You've always walked into a club and opened the red velvet rope for you to let you in because you know everyone and you're VIP everywhere in Canada. She's like, you're somewhere new. It's an opportunity for you to do something different. And she's like, who knows, maybe you might do even better. So she told me, give it a year, because my initial thought was like, fuck that. I'm going back to Canada. I'm taking my child. I'm going back to Canada. But then my mom told me, she said, if you do that, she's not going to know her dad. And even though our relationship didn't work out, he's an amazing dad, right? So I'm like, okay, what the fuck do I do? She told me, give it a year. If you want to cut your veins after a year because you're so miserable, okay. But she's like, you need to try. You need to try. Because when I moved to Miami, by the way, I hated Miami. Hated it. I've never hated the city so much when at first. Now I love it. But at first, I'm like, okay, when you have no friends, when you have nothing, when you come from Canada, it's very difficult. It's difficult to make friends here. It's difficult to find genuine people. I missed my friends. Like I missed my.
I had that with New York too.
You had that too when you came here. Like I literally like.
I liked it, but there were times where like, damn, I kind of want to chill with my friends. Yeah,
yeah, like especially when I have like when you have like a newborn baby. Like I thought about all my friends and. Like I have my friend Jen, like if she's listening, like I remember my friend Jen coming in and like helping me with my kid, and then she left, and I was like crying because I'm like, if I was in Canada, I would have that help. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. And it was so difficult, and I was at a point where I started looking at jobs, and I have a good background, so I would put on LinkedIn. I'm looking, and I had all these job offers, I think, and the salary here is shitty when you work at a bank, like shitty.
It's much better in Canada.
Much better in Canada.
Really?
Much better. Like here, they want you to work more and they pay you less. And I'm like, okay, you want me to work 9 to 6? What about my fucking child? The daycare finishes at 6. How am I going to get to daycare? Like with the traffic and everything. The schedule is shitty. They pay you less money. Like they would pay me probably 30% less than I was making in Canada, and they wanted me to work more. So I got a really shitty job in the meanwhile, and I'm like, you know what? I've always wanted to be a realtor. I'm like, what do I have to lose? I'm like, I'm already here. I'm already not rock bottom, but I'm already I know nobody. I'm already I hate it. I'm just at the point where I'm like, what do I have to lose trying something? Because I'm like, it's not like I'm going back to Canada. I'm like, I'm gonna as well try. And I heard realtors here are really shitty. And I'm like, I'm really good in customer service. I have a really good education. I speak multiple languages. I'm like, you know what? Let me try. And I hope he's listening to me. There's this particular realtor that I called and I knew here. I told him I wanted to be a realtor, and this guy put me down so much that he made me want to be a realtor even more. Remember when I told you that when people put me down and when people doubt me, it fuels me. This guy told me, oh, my assistant, he's an attorney. He failed the exam 4 times. And he's like, good luck being a realtor, you not knowing anyone.
Failed the exam 4 times.
Yeah, he's a dumbass.
It's not that hard of a test.
But I finished it in 20 minutes, and English is not my first language.
I failed the first time too.
You did? I didn't fail
Second
it the first
time.
time.
I failed it by 3 points.
Oh my god.
The second time I took it, I aced it though.
No, okay, I failed the one in Canada, and the one here I aced that shit, right? So this realtor basically told me good luck. Good luck being a realtor. You don't know anyone. Good luck, and guess what? I'm doing better than him now.
That's amazing. That's incredible.
And it didn't take me too long to do better. But anyways, so he really put me down.
You can't drop the mic because it's attached to the
drop mic. But anyways, he basically, because I was just like, what do I have to do? So I'm like, you know what I did, because I worked in mortgages.
You're in your element right now.
I'm what?
You're in your element right now.
I am.
Chilling.
Listen. What I did though is, because I worked in mortgages, I worked with realtors. Mm-hmm. So I called the realtors I knew, and I'm like, what should I do? Right? I want to become a realtor in Miami. I don't know anyone. I have no money. I have a little bit of money. What do I do? And they all told me, they're like, you need to go full time and you need to get into coaching or mentorship.
Absolutely. Excellent advice. I have a great coach and I started full time. Yeah.
Are you coaching at KW or?
Well, he is a KW. He's part of KW. He has a KW Market Center.
Okay, cool.
His name is Aaron Novello.
Okay, I think I heard about it. I started off at KW.
Oh yeah?
Yeah.
Yeah. So his name is Aaron Novello.
Okay.
He's not like a famous guy with a ton of followers or whatever, but he is so knowledgeable. He's an amazing realtor too. Does incredibly well. He's not. For instance, you have Dina Golden-Terre, who's well known. Everyone knows her, right? You have some realtors that everyone knows. He's well known with certain people, obviously, but he's an incredible coach. He's a real estate king. He really, really knows his shit. Very happy that I decided to do coaching with him.
It's the best thing you can do for your career.
I did it early on. I got into coaching a couple of months in. Some colleagues in my office told me about him. I checked him out. I liked what he had to say.
It's an investment. It's an
well
investment in your business, right? So
I do role play every morning.
You do?
I am on a role play group. So
Monday to cold calling.
Right. So Monday to Friday.
I started cold calling too.
Started?
Well, no, and I didn't start, but when I started off in real estate, right. I mean, the thing with coaching is that, the way I look at it, I'm like, okay, do you know any...
A little bit of wine.
It's starting already, guys. It's starting.
You're still sober.
Ish. Because you drop wine. But the way I look at coaching, I'm like, okay, imagine a really good athlete. Even though they're really talented, they all have a coach, right? Mm-hmm. Are you looking at your wine thing like, what the fuck?
No, it is what it is. I can't undo my wine stain. Shit
Yeah.
happens.
That's why I'm wearing black. If I drop wine, like I'm fine.
It is what it is. It's okay.
I'm in
Go
Tom
on.
Ferry coaching. I'm in Tom Ferry.
So that's what gets me about Tom Ferry though. Tom Ferry, was he ever a realtor?
So his dad was a realtor. I'm not sure if he was a realtor, but he's not the one that coaches me.
I just don't get it though. Meaning he's a coach for so many people, but he's
He's
never.
so good though. Like he's super talented and like knowing what to do. But my thing is like, okay,
So
you might
weird,
not
though.
be the best realtor, and a lot of coaches, even in the NBA or in the NFL, they weren't the best players, but they're just amazing coaches.
I guess that's valid. It's just interesting to me. I'm kind of I really like to be coached by somebody who's in the trenches.
My coach is not. My coach isn't like one of the best realtors out there.
Mhm.
My coach was like, well, he still sells real estate, but he's a great realtor, right? So most of the coaches in the company, they're either like top producing realtors that have a team running everything, or they were realtors and they're doing something else now. But my coach is, I can't say anything bad. Like he's awesome, and for me, it's worth every penny. Whether you're doing Tom Ferry or any other program that you're comfortable with, coaching is really what. And for me, I didn't start with them. I was at QW. I did like the productivity coaching and everything at the beginning, and then I got.
I started that too. Yeah, I'm not doing that.
No, I don't mean either. I didn't do that for long. But I'm just saying that I remember them telling me get into coaching and go full time. That to me was like stabbing. So like, how the fuck am I gonna go full time? I'm like, I have no money. And then one of the realtors there, she told me, well, save your shit up, because one of my biggest regrets was not going full time early on. Right? Because she said, if
What were you doing? What were you doing?
I had a shitty job as an executive assistant, like kind of like part time
Mhm.
here, just in the meanwhile. And I had savings, right? So I had savings for like 6 months. So I went in literally full time. And I think that when you're at a point where you have no choice to make money, and you have no choice and when you have a kid too, you look at your kid and you're like, I have to feed that child, right? And I'm like, if I don't make any commission money, she's not gonna eat. I'm not gonna eat. Like, it's all fucked up, and it drove me.
That's also a great driver though, because you know that it's not only about you now. You have
Yeah.
somebody else you have to take care of. So
It
puts things
was.
into a different perspective. It makes you work harder.
It was. And when you have a job, you have a cushion.
Mhm.
So you don't have to work as hard. You don't have to. I know people that only became full time after a couple of years, and everyone says the same shit. Everyone's like, I should have done it earlier.
Yeah, I'm very happy. I started full time.
So how long have you been in real estate?
Not long, a year and 4 months.
Good for you, and you're still in it.
Yeah.
You beat all odds, right?
Right? We
Because
still have a
most
long way to
realtors
go.
don't make it beyond. I remember. Actually,
No, I'm going to be in this full time. I'm going to be in this full time for a while. I'm going to get into investment. I want to be a developer.
I'm an investor too, by the way.
That's awesome. So tell me all about it. So I definitely want to be. I want to get more into investment as time goes on. So I'm newer with it, so I have a lot to learn, and obviously I'm still going through the struggling stage of not having closings all the time. Thank God it was good. I got Rookie of the Year in my office.
You got what?
Rookie of the Year in my office.
I won Rookie of the Year too.
Oh yeah?
No way! I won Rookie of the Year. I still have my trophy from QW. I started in real estate in May 2015, and January 2016, I won Rookie of the Year.
Nice.
And the thing is, it was all by luck. Not by luck, but I had like only 4 transactions, but one of them was like 7% commission. It was like a new construction thing. And I thought that was life. I'm like, oh, my life is done. I don't need to prospect. And then, like, the year after, I made
Keller
less
Williams
money.
talks about that.
I made less money the next year.
What?
My first year, I did super well. My second year, I wanted to literally kill myself, and I had to drive Uber. Because I lost all the money I had. Because all my bills I had fell through.
So that's what Keller. This is why. Here's the thing. So we'll go into this whole thing. There are people that start out at boutique companies because they have this idea that Keller Williams doesn't have that same.
No, Keller Williams is the best company to start off in.
Yeah. I'm honestly, I don't really care to go somewhere else. I understand the benefits of going somewhere else, going to Compass or Element or whatever. I understand that. I love my office. I like the people there. And at the end of the day, I'm networking with people in other companies.
Yeah, for sure.
So if there needs, I'm networking with you. I'm going to be networking.
And I was at Element and Compass and now Allure.
So
I went to
a
Element.
bunch of companies.
Well, not a bunch. I went to
That's
Element
a lot of companies.
I went to Element after QW because I wanted to get into luxury.
So why'd you leave Element?
Because Compass were like, they wanted.
Okay, and why'd you leave Compass?
So I wasn't gonna leave Compass. I was really happy at Compass, but a good friend of mine started a black-owned boutique brokerage company, and they're killing it in Tampa. And she wanted to open her branch in Miami. And
So she gave you the.
I'm in the company, but guess what? That company now, Allure in Tampa, they're on Netflix, and they're #1 in 54 countries. So
54
fucking
countries.
fucking killing it in Tampa. A bunch of black women.
Oh,
selling,
they do that show.
That's the company I'm in now.
What's it called? Selling Tampa. That's the company. Very cool.
So my girl Cheryl was like, "Hey, I'm opening in Miami. Do you want to join? Whatever." And I said, "You know what? For me, it wasn't about the name or the brand. It was about making a change in South Florida because you don't see a lot of black women in real estate. In fact, you don't see a lot of black women in things that are not ghetto. You know what I mean? Like usually you see people in like Love and Hip Hop or like these shows or even just in general. It's just I'm like we're representing classy women that are different colors, different nationalities, and we're making a change in South Florida. For me, it had a bigger purpose.
Okay. So
I wasn't gonna leave Compass, by the way, and I love Compass. I'm still very close to a lot of people at Compass. I was very happy at Compass, but for me, that was an opportunity that was more personal.
Okay, and I understand there's a deep reasoning behind it.
It's a deeper reasoning, and KW, by the way, which I was fine at KW, but in the market that I was in for luxury at the time, you really had to be more in a bigger name company, which I lived in Pinecrest at the time.
I mean, Keller Williams has a huge name, but they don't necessarily have the big name of luxury the same way other companies. Wait, hold on. You said you want to tickle Kobe Carp?
I just want people to burst out laughing.
Kobe Carp, Sarah Desamours wants to tickle you. He's married, Sarah. Behave.
Oh my god. Oh my god. I'm just saying, when people are serious, I just want to make them laugh.
Yeah, I understand.
Imagine if are you ticklish?
I am ticklish.
Oh my god. No, you laugh.
Okay, 1 second.
What?
Okay. I asked if he was a cop.
If you're a cop. What? If you're a cop. We're getting new cops out. You know most good-looking women are cops? Well, I'm going home, alright? Let's play with some new guys.
I'm dead.
It's great, right? I'm going to put that. It's in the podcast, right?
It's
coming out tomorrow. But you see, like, cop, like, it worked. So
Cop.
You're not a cop, and you hear his, like, I put a huge face on Leonardo DiCaprio's body.
That is so funny.
Yes.
You said yes.
Yes. Yeah.
Okay, like, what would you want to know about me that, like?
I mean, we spoke a lot about you.
No, we did, but
Here's
like,
the thing.
Let's say for now.
What I like to know about
like, recently. Like, because we talked about, like, the
you. You can talk about recent sales. You can talk to me about anything.
Really? But what would you want to know? Like, what do you think? Like, what's something?
Have you killed anybody?
I haven't.
Not yet.
I haven't. I've killed a couple of flies, you know? But except for that, I haven't killed anyone.
Okay. So
that's very important.
You're in the luxury market.
No.
You're in 2022. You have a business plan. You seem like a business plan person. What do you feel you're going to accomplish that you haven't accomplished before?
For me, right, when I look at Miami, you always have the same realtors on top. And I'm going to be one of those realtors on top, in the top 10. The ones that people are like, oh shit, like I have a showing with her.
Yeah,
right?
you have a lot of work to do. I plan on doing that too. You have a lot of work to do.
I have a lot of work to do, but I'm getting there.
Here's the thing that I noticed, and I have no hesitation saying this. There are some realtors at the top of the game here that definitely did not come from poor backgrounds.
Exactly.
And that doesn't mean that they don't deserve the credit because I
just think that it's not the same.
Not the same because they don't have the same drive.
I mean, you literally came from a world where you already knew the rich people. So it was easier.
I still respect them because, again, they decided not to be lazy kids and just collect their money, their trust fund money. But again, they have a huge leg up. So we'll talk about the Alexanders, for instance. I have an immense amount of respect for them because they still became who they became. Just because they have a rich father doesn't mean that they would become the number one team.
Sure.
So I still respect them for that. With that said, they came with a huge head start. Massive head start. They came in with connections.
Jump start.
So no matter what they say to me, even though I don't know them, they came in with a massive head start. So sure. I understand that. I somewhat understand the hate behind it. I'm not saying that people should hate on them, and if they shouldn't give a shit if anyone hates on them. They're doing them. They're making tons of money. They're doing well, and I respect them for it.
True.
But yeah, I mean, there's no question they have a head start. There's absolutely no question they have the
Like, I
know-how.
had no head start.
Mhm.
I didn't.
Did
You
you really?
didn't.
Did you really not?
I didn't.
You sure?
Because I literally didn't know anyone. I had to cold call. I had to door knock.
Well, you were in New York. You were not New York.
By
You
the
were
way,
in
I have
Canada.
a listing that's going to come on the market this week. It's somebody that I door knocked with my daughter in the stroller in 2015. And I got the listing this year.
Wow, and you didn't, and you kept in touch with them for
Yep.
this long.
For 6 years.
Wow.
Because I used to go door knocking
What's the
with
lowest
my
price?
daughter.
What's the lowest price?
$1.15 million
Good shit.
in Pinecrest.
Awesome.
Okay? That's somebody that, because back in the days, when you go to KW and you teach her everything, you have to go door knocking. I'm like, I can't. I don't have anyone to watch my daughter. And I would literally, I printed those flyers that I created in like Photoshop or whatever. And I would go door knocking, and if they weren't there, I would leave my flyer there. And one of the guys there, he called me back and he was like, I think I'm going to sell in a couple of years. You want to come take a look at my house and whatnot? And I went, and he wasn't ready, and he literally stayed in touch with me. And I stayed in touch with him for 6 years, and I just got the listing for his house now.
I'm surprised.
And he's going to buy after.
Nice.
And people are going to tell me, oh, how'd you get that? Listen, I'm not going to tell people, oh, that, like, oh, it's my connections. No, I fucking hustled, and I door knocked with a newborn in a fucking stroller. And I stayed in touch, and I put him on campaigns, and I would make the phone calls, and I would send the collateral, and I would send the emails, and he would follow me. And that's another thing that I didn't even know. He basically asked me about my daughter. I'm like, oh, my daughter? Yeah. He's like, yeah, I follow you on Facebook, like on your Facebook business page. So whenever I post on Instagram, I post to my Facebook business page, and the older generation, they love Facebook. And he's basically been watching me for the past 6 years, and he has an attachment to me.
That is what is so important about social media. That's why on my cold calls, I mention to my clients that I have a podcast, and they love it.
People love
awesome.
that, and at the end of the day, people are going to work with you because they like you.
Yes.
They're not going
It's
to
a
work with you
relationship
because
business.
of your number of sales, because I've
It's a
never been asked for my
relationship
number of
business.
sales. I've never been asked like how many homes I sold in that specific area. He just really liked me. He liked my personality, and he liked my hustle. And he found out my daughter was cute, right?
Okay.
And 6 years, and it came from me door knocking 6 years ago. So I don't want anyone to tell me that, oh, you got this because of your connections. Because no. I hustled, and I still do the hard work. I'll cold call, I'll door knock, I'll do whatever I have to do to get a listing.
What do you suggest for people that aren't in the luxury market to get into the luxury market? You mentioned relationships, which is number one.
Relationship.
Okay.
Okay. Relationships are things that develop, right? So one of the things I did was that I like to study, right? My thing is marketing. So I'll take a step back and I'll study. I'm like, okay, rich people have money. Where do they hang out? Where do they work out?
Mm-hmm.
Where do they eat? Where do they go? And I'm like, what do I like to do? I like to work
So I
out.
should probably get an Equinox membership.
That's exactly what I did when I couldn't afford. I could barely afford it. And I remember every time I would come in, like every month, I'd be like, oh
One thing I don't like about Equinox is
200.
how seemingly bougie it is. I go to LA right here,
Yeah.
and it's kind of more grungy. I like when a gym isn't all fancy and posh because I want a gym where like you slam the weights
my
down.
thing is, I don't give a shit about that. I want clients.
Okay, well, I'm not, with all due respect, I'm not going to a gym for real estate. I hear you. I should.
No, but you
What
do
I
what
will
works
do-
for you, though.
Right,
You
right,
do
right.
what works for me. Me, I'm like, I like to work out. I'm fucking sociable. I talk to everyone. I'm like, where can I do that while doing something I'm already doing?
Right. Yeah, I just want to, when I'm in the gym, I just want to work out. Like, I have some buddies in the gym for sure. I know people in the gym, but I don't sit there having random conversation. I like to do
I
my work.
came up when I got COVID. I didn't sit there and have random conversations. I became COVID to stop. No, I'm just saying, I would work out, but then I became really nice with friends with the staff. And then the staff, people tell them everything.
So if they ever need a realtor, yeah, for sure.
So I
That's
started
good advice.
telling myself, okay, if I'm going to go to Starbucks, am I going to go to Starbucks there, or am I going to go to Starbucks in Coral Gables, where if people talk to me, they most likely have more money. So what I started doing, I started just doing the things that I always do, but
In
in
wealthier
the rich,
areas.
in the wealthy neighborhoods.
Right. So Aventura does have a lot of wealthy, but there's also people down south that do. It's a very good
Yeah,
point.
it's different. We have Coral Gables, Pinecrest, Brickell.
You know Jonathan Vega? Ever heard of him?
I think is he real?
He just made a podcast. He just made a video called Pinecrest. It's
No
amazing.
way.
He's a character. I had him on my podcast. So he's been in it since he's 18. I think he's 25. So figure also 7 years. he's very unorthodox. He's very funny. He's a character, but he's doing well, and he also just relationships. He's just a really good dude.
Yeah.
So yeah, I'll show you some of his
I lived
content.
in Pinehurst. That's where I lived when I was school.
So he
when
did
I was
this
doing
really
the door
corny.
knock.
Okay, so he did this really corny music video called Pinecrest. I'll show it to
Oh my
you.
God.
He's a funny dude. Yeah, he's a really cool dude. So
By the way, in Pinehurst, everyone thought I was my daughter's nanny.
it's weird.
It's weird because it's all nannies. It's very like
It's posh.
it's posh. And I'm like, I'm not the nanny, I'm the mom.
This is again what we're going into the whole judging you and you having to,
All the time, literally, all because I'm younger. Like I'm not like I'm older. Like I was pretty young at the time. I was 27, 28. We thought I was a nanny, but Pinecrest is a great neighborhood because there's a lot of wealth there, and that's actually where I got my first NBA player client.
Wow.
I knew Pinecrest, yeah.
Wow, that's awesome. No, I'm working on some big clients, God willing. It's definitely, I know that this is the right business
I
for
can
me.
say God willing in Hebrew.
Be'ezrat, try it.
Bezrat.
You're close. So you guys, you're French, so you do a different like R sound. Be'ezrat Hashem.
Bezrat Hashem. Ah, okay, got it. Bezrat Hashem.
Yeah, and there's also
Si Dieu veut.
right. You got it. You good. Indeed, yes, indeed. But of course,
Dieu veut, it's on-
but of course, Sarah Desamours. But of course, but of course. Thank you, merci. I think we're good. Merci for coming on to this podcast.
De rien.
It's been a pleasure.
De rien.
What does that mean?
De rien. You're welcome.
You're welcome. Okay, cool. It's been a pleasure. Thank you. You really gave a lot of value. Thank you for the story. Thank you for the motivation. I hope everyone listening got a lot of value from it. You're a character.
You think?
That you're a character. Absolutely.
Oh my God.
So yes, make sure I'm going to drop your social media. I'll get it. We'll get it after the show. I'll make sure to put it. It'll actually be on the episode, so people can actually see it and subscribe and follow. So guys, make sure to subscribe, smash the like button, comment, share with the friends. I trust that you'll promote the podcast as well. And until next time.